Is there any such thing as a fraud? Is there any such thing as a trained professional versus a quote amateur? Uh, is there any such thing as a fake? Well, I believe psychology kind of refers to this concept as is splitting going on, and psychologists, psychiatrists may say failure to integrate the good and the bad. Well, what in the world does that mean? I pondered for years until when I really started to be able to walk the talk on this 5-10 years ago, and that is, can we come to the point of saying nobody has all the answers and nobody has no answers, and that doesn't matter who we're talking about? If we can say that, then I think we can start to put together what some might say our own cookbook on life. Kind of got that terminology from the movie No Reservations. Or as a psychologist might say, if asked their theory, a few might say it's eclecticism. In other words, they take a little bit here, a little bit there, and put it all together in their little, what Europeans used to call Weltanschauung, their viewpoint on life. So, for instance, I have a book, and it's something like 23 different schools of psychoanalysis. But really, how about a school that is all 323 schools combined, and that's the 24th school? Wouldn't that be a nifty one? The School of Psychoanalytic Eclecticism. Or, say, if someone asks, are you religious, and what religion are you? Christian, Muslim, Buddhist? Wouldn't it be nice to say, my religion is life, or my religion is reality? There may be a few terms like that try and address this, but how about our viewpoint an amalgam, in that we are mutts, so to speak? But then therein lies the difficulty, isn't it? That is much harder to do, to put together our own cookbook, to accumulate it, collate it, review it, write it down, clarify it, so to speak, than to buy it. Well, it isn't out there, so we have to invent it ourselves, sadly to say. We have to write our own cookbook thus, don't we? If we want the best bang for the buck, I think, in life. Otherwise, I think it's called, who's the best teacher out there? Who's the prophet with all the answers? Who's the guru? Who's the spiritual leader? Who's the great talk show host of the day? Who's the number one bestseller? Who is the magic bullet? Who is the magic pill? Who's the magic prescription? Who is the deliverer? Who is the great leader, politician-wise? What's the best political party? On and on and on. Rather than what is the best amalgam? What is the best cookbook as per a little bit here, a little bit there, and let's leave out a little bit of that and leave out a little bit of that. Now that, of course, is quite a task, I think, in data management alone, including review. Especially when so many people want a instant solution. In other words, the mentality of, I don't want it fast, I want it yesterday or 2 weeks ago. Can you make that happen somehow with a magic wand? To me, then, that's what the concept of splitting alludes to when it says, can the good and the bad be integrated? Well, why would you want the bad even as part of your cookbook or view on life except as per what not to believe or implement or do? What is not reality can be part of your cookbook, yes, and integrated thus into the so-called good and bad as two truths, and yes, the mistruths to watch out for. That, in my mind, is what we talk about, or psychologists anyway talk about in a rather murky fashion, perhaps, when they say integrating the good and the bad. It means overall having a viewpoint we cobble together that is the truths of life and the mistruths often found out there, communicated, that we recognize hopefully more and more as mistruths, subject to reevaluation from time to time. Sidney Poitier, by the way, was in a movie, The Last Bricklayer in America. I believe he was once from the Bahamas, or a ambassador to the Bahamas, if memory serves me correct. And he was in also the wonderful movie To Sir with Love. Guess Who's Coming to Dinner? He covered some controversial topics at the time and more, challenging at any rate to some. And fascinatingly, in this movie, The Last Bricklayer in America, he took on a bricklaying construction project in which bricks had to be made slowly. And competitors at that time and more, they were producing it quickly and in mass production. He was, quote, then the last bricklayer in America to produce bricks slowly. Well, maybe the slow approach is what it takes to put together our own cookbook on life, rather than grabbing an off-the-shelf view, shall we say, that we think will be the magic bullet, but it's just one sliver of the whole package about reality in general, of how the universe works, how people work, the various types of people, the various struggles we can have, our makeup, and more. We all love to think we have all the answers, and boy, does that sell, too, to shine that out. I know, in fact, listening to a video, Tony Robbins was once asked, what's the secret to his having gone from janitor to millionaire in 18 months? He said he outconfidenced the people he sold coaching packages to at various firms. How interesting. He outconfidenced them in terms of being more convincing that he had all the answers in one rubric than anyone else, rather than somebody having to sit down painstakingly and accumulate over years and decades their own approach. Again, as per what you call a cookbook or an eclectic viewpoint. I like it put again as it was in the movie No Reservations, a wonderful movie. A psychoanalyst was, quote, assisting somebody working in a restaurant, and he said amongst two things that really struck me. One was, the best therapist is the one between your two ears, and at another point in the movie he said to the individual, the best recipes are the ones we write ourselves. Well, I think I'd like to clarify that in my mind right now to say the best cookbook is the one that has the recipes we've put in it ourselves painstakingly over time, rather than the best cookbook is the one with one recipe put in there by one person. Who would buy a cookbook with one recipe in it? And that person say, well, that's all there is to know and you need to know about cooking. Just buy my cookbook. It has one recipe in it. And that's all you need to know. Well, it seems to me then that's the approach a number of us want. We want to grab the instant solution that's quick to digest, put out with someone with super confidence, and it has only one recipe, one viewpoint, one commentary about one sliver of life. To me, that's not going to fly in the long run, and is in part why I believe Ayman Aghi has said the average book reader only reads the first 18 pages of a book and then tosses it aside. And Stephen James of Project Life Mastery says only 10% of people who buy an ebook even open the ebook ever, to crack the cover, so to speak, of the ebook. Maybe if these books in general offered more than one sliver, but were integrating, quote, the good and the bad, were a true comprehensive cookbook, then we would read it avidly cover to cover. Thoughts here?